missions. A commitment to show an unfiltered view of the before, during, and after of key events live as it happens. To defend the First Amendment using our rights of a free press. And to amplify the voices of underrepresented individuals including Black, Indigenous, persons of color, and the LGBTQIA+ community. Our team is committed to seeking equality for all and holding those in power accountable. The easiest way to support Malcontent News is to bookmark our website at malcontentnews.com, like and follow us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, and in the Google News app. To provide financial support, you can become a patron, make a one-time donation through Venmo, or link your Twitch account to your Amazon Prime account and use your free subscription to subscribe to Malcontent News. Thank you for supporting independent journalism and for being a malcontent. Good evening, malcontents, and welcome to another episode of Malcontentment Happy Hour. Today is Monday, February 15th, 2021. Jennifer, I finally got the month through my head. We're only halfway through it.
I know, it feels like we've been in 2021 forever.
It started like the first 14 days were like some of the longest 14 days ever, and then all of a sudden it was like gas pedal to the floor. It just went by like that. And then the last week, it's kind of crawled again.
Yeah, but it still feels like the longest year ever for, 6 weeks?
After 2020 was the longest year ever, but yes. Jennifer, we got a lot of ground to cover. Why don't we go into the land acknowledgement and make it happen?
All right. Malcontent News comes to you from Seattle, Washington, the occupied homelands of Coast Salish peoples. We are grateful to live and work as guests on this land, the land which touches the shared waters of all tribes and bands within the Duwamish, Suquamish, Tulalip, and Muckleshoot nations. This land acknowledgement is but one small gesture in the ongoing process of working toward repairing and sustaining relations with Coast Salish lands, waters, peoples, and their other than human kin.
Thank you for that, Jennifer. Malcontents, I'm hearing your pleas that you can't hear Jennifer very well. Stand by. We're going to add a bunch of gain to her channel. Jennifer, can you say something?
Hi.
Malcontents, is that better? Well, people are saying you're silent. Oh, people are saying they can barely hear you / silent. 1 second. I hope we don't have to restart the show, but...
Moved my computer a little closer to me. Can you hear me at all?
I can hear you fine the whole time.
Okay.
All right, Malcontents, can you hear her now? Say something.
Hi. Can you guys hear me?
They can totally hear you. As a matter of fact, you're too loud now.
Sorry.
All right, Jennifer, I think we got you.
Okay.
How's that, Malcontents? Is that better? Jennifer, say something.
I
Beyond
did-
something. Jennifer, can you not hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay, I'm here. Do you see my like?
What we'll do after that fun and games, let's do the late acknowledgement one more time. They said they could barely hear you. Some people were saying they couldn't hear you. Some people said they could barely hear you. I don't know. We'll just do it again.
Okay. Give me just 1 second. So Malcontent News comes to you from Seattle, Washington. Sorry. The occupied homelands of Coast Salish peoples. We are grateful to live and work as guests on these lands, the land which touches the shared waters of all tribes and bands within the Duwamish, Suquamish, Tulalip, and Muckleshoot nations. This land acknowledgement is but one small gesture in the ongoing process of working toward repairing and sustaining relations with Coast Salish lands, waters, peoples, and other than human kin.
All right, Jennifer, thank you so much for that. And with that, now that we have things started again, and I'm glad at least we caught any audio issues if there was, I really didn't do much of anything. I turned the game up. All of a sudden you were blown out and I turned it back to normal. That's all I did. So I don't know, glitch in the matrix on your side or what, or I don't know. But anyway, here we are. So Malcontents, before we get started, here's the first thing you could do. You could spam those hearts. Let those mods and admins know that you really appreciate the hard work that they do, keeping the comments mostly chud-free.
It's a cannibalistic humanoid underground dweller.
Mostly.
I know that we really appreciate the hard work that they do. The other thing that you could do is you can like, share, follow, subscribe, set up a watch party. All of that helps amplify independent media and amplify Malcontent News. And with that, we're going to go ahead and roll into our first section. Our first story takes us to Seattle and the story of Andy Finseth, firefighter. Jennifer, he's a wonderful man. I want to play this heartwarming video for you about Andy Finseth. Can we go ahead and do that?
Oh, please do.
I'm Andy Finseth. I work at Station 2, Engine 2. I'm a tailboarder on Engine 2, position 4 commonly, so I fill in wherever needed on scenes and commonly the backup driver. I really enjoy working at Station 2, downtown neighborhood. We got a diverse area we serve. Lots of opportunities, and everyone that works down there really wants to work hard. It's a great group of people. So a few years ago, I just kind of noticed that our hydraulics program, or the process of moving and managing water through the fire engines, wasn't quite maybe where it could be. So reached out to others and kind of took the lead role on developing a training program and materials so that firefighters have the resources to learn this material. And we've been working hard on it. We still got a little ways to go, but really proud at where it's moving.
He's a great guy. Or he was a great guy.
In 2018, apparently.
So, what's that?
In 2018, apparently.
In 2018, he was a great guy. In late 2020, not so much. If you're not familiar with the story of Andy Finseth, let's fill you in. Andy, starting in December, and actually, Jennifer, it may even be before December, and it may involve more than one city council member. Yeah. Andy apparently hacked one of his fellow firefighters' email accounts and then started sending death threats and other threats, at least to one city councilor. And we're going to go ahead and roll that clip.
This is not an attack against just me or my office. This is an attack on the Black Lives Matter movement, on everybody who has been fighting for a better society.
Sawant publicly complained during several council meetings about the emails which originated from a Seattle Fire Department email address and the alleged delay by SPD in the investigation. Police initially focused on a Seattle Fire Department employee, which led them to Finseth. That first employee was eliminated as a suspect. The 42-year-old Finseth was arrested at the end of his shift Friday morning for harassment, identity theft, and computer trespass. He's now on paid administrative leave, a spokesperson for the department saying there are no circumstances under which the Seattle Fire Department would condone an employee sending threatening emails to another person. And threatening an elected official is considered a felony. Finseth is behind bars tonight in the county jail and remain there until at least tomorrow when he has his first hearing. Police are now saying that they also investigated another unrelated threat to another council member in December. We're still waiting to hear who that council member was. Reporting live in Seattle, Matt Markovich, Como News.
Jennifer! Who the hell edits this stuff? That was Como's video, not the Firefly. Fire the editor!
No, because I don't want to have to do the show by myself, so we're keeping the editor.
I appreciate that, Jennifer. Credit to that video clip goes to Como News, not to the Seattle Fire Department, who probably would have preferred that that video never saw the light of day.
Yeah.
There's some things to unpack here. And Jennifer, we have some more, it's like everyone's kind of like, we know this part of the story. Oh no, there's more. There's more. We have more to this story. As I was saying, Jennifer, this isn't just, when Sawan was making these accusations, I was thinking to myself, who would be stupid enough to use their City of Seattle email address to do this? Something doesn't sound right to me. And I get that there's people that are that stupid in the world, but I was like, it doesn't sound right. And of course, now what we've learned was, well, Andy wasn't using his account. He was using a fellow firefighter's account. That firefighter investigated, could have, if there wasn't the proper due diligence. I wonder if that first firefighter's white, Jennifer.
I don't know. And that's an interesting thing. Because you see someone talk about like how it's this attack on BLM and other things, but she's also ignoring the fact that it's blatant misogyny. Like, you know, it's totally an attack on a woman of color. And I'd be curious to know, you said something about there potentially being another city council member, if that was a person of color or or a female. Because yeah, that's something that's been overlooked kind of in what's happening here. So yeah.
So, of course, because of union contracts, and it's a little harder to begrudge the fire department because, as far as we know, this is a bit of an outlier for City of Seattle Fire Department behavior. Yeah. But thanks to union contracts, he's still getting a paycheck while he's sitting in a jail cell. He was arrested on Friday. He would have potentially had a bond hearing on Saturday. We don't know if he had a bond hearing. The other thing is the weather may have totally screwed up courts on Saturday. We don't know. Very unlikely to get a bond hearing on Sunday, federal holiday today. So he may still be a guest of King County Jail, but that we weren't able to confirm before airtime. One of the malcontents, if you know, give us the 411 in the comments.
Yeah.
So then what happens in this story is there's another player in this. One, David Preston of Safe Seattle, which bills itself as a site that wants to make Seattle a safe place and provide a voice. And anyway, this is what David Preston had to say about this.
This is not an attack against...
Here we go. Back on January 19th, communist Kwame says she's getting threatening emails from the City of Seattle email account. Meanwhile, the person tied to the account, blah, 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 blah. But he goes on to say in all of this, yes, Kashama, they're not threatening you. They're threatening the entire working class because they hate socialism. The full article is here. Then he goes on to say, don't say nasty things on this post or they're removed or you could get banned. We know that he's just doing that because he doesn't want to get the whole page pulled down because page owners are responsible for the comments that they leave unmoderated on there. And I am sure Facebook has explained to David Preston and the leaders over at Safe Seattle on these items here. But basically, David Preston, of which he is so good at, goes into full-on victim blaming. And of course, we've got to throw the communist word in there because the argument is Sawant wants to fully abolish the police, and hence she deserves what she's going to get.
Yeah, and that's just the lamest argument. And it's always so funny to me because the people that are most against communism and socialism don't really know what it is and have never really actually read any of the literature on it. And I guarantee you, Preston gets all of his information from some conservative media outlets or just uses it as a buzzword because he's never actually read any of the literature and doesn't understand it and just uses it to fearmonger. But yeah, again, like we cannot ignore the blatant misogyny in this, not only from this Andrew Finseth, who at one point said, quote, if you need help leaving, try jumping head first off the top of floor of your building, I'll even come push you, end quote. And also from Preston, who's ignoring it, and rather than allowing it to be like, understanding it for what it is, this very specific attack on her as a woman of color, tries to use the umbrella of socialism and communism to negate any of the negative connotations of these emails and correspondence.
Yeah, and she's been used as a scapegoat by the city council before. And a good example of that, when there was this issue of the employee head tax, and she became the target of the architect of the employee head tax for high-paying employees. Some people called it the Amazon tax. Yeah. And she actually didn't come up with it. It was another council person that was co-sponsored by other council people, but people just targeted her because she was the eager target and because she spoke in favor of it. And the council members who actually came up with it, just like, not it. You can take the heat.
Yeah, which is so cowardly.
And we've seen other politicians do this, like Mitch McConnell this weekend, but we'll talk about that later.
Yes, we will.
But wait, there's more, because Jennifer, our cameras were rolling on June 8th in 2020, and we have where Kshama Sawant was in the hot box, like really in the hot box, surrounded by hundreds of people who wanted the full abolishment of the police. We have her words on camera, Dave Preston. So this one's for you.
Are you for abolishing the police? Are you for getting rid of the police?
Honest answers.
I will give you an answer. And if you know anything about me and my organization, Socialist Alternative, what you will know is that you may not agree with us on certain things. You may agree with us on certain things, you may disagree. But what you will always get from us is honesty. I'm not going to bullshit you. Okay? That's the starting point. Thank you.
Okay, wait. So I gotta, listen y'all, hold up. I'm doing this for a reason. So look, Horseman, right? What about those demands? Huh? Sorry, you didn't know I knew about Horseman.
That's the reason you will not catch me saying abolish police or defunding 100%. Not because I don't believe in it, but because I know what it will take to win it. So let's and another item of no bullshit. Winning 50% defund is going to be goddamn hard.
There's her words. She's like, basically, let me paraphrase for you. I think it's a great idea, but it's a friggin' pipe dream that's never going to happen. And as a matter of fact, I don't even think you're going to get 50%. And oh, guess what, Jennifer? She was right.
Yeah. And it's like you could confront people with these facts and with these video, but their own beliefs are so ingrained within their mind that they're not going to listen. They don't care. They're still going to continue to use the same rhetoric over and over again to justify their actions. So, I mean, we can call Dave Preston all we want, but the fact of the matter remains, he's still going to continue with his same inflammatory rhetoric, same, position, communist socialism, buzzwords, whatever he can to justify his own position.
You're not the same. I'm an American. You're a sick asshole.
It's just a perfect little clip to play there. And the really funny thing here for me is I'm not a fan of SWAT. But Jennifer, anybody who watches this shows know I will throw a bone to anyone if I think they deserve a bone. And the other thing I've made clear almost every week, I'm not an abolitionist. And I think this is a good example of where we need police. And especially when we're talking about somebody who is entrusted with the public good. It is a particularly horrific betrayal. And Andy, I say that as a former EMT. So I actually have skin in the game on this one.
Yeah, no, it's pretty, the whole thing is just absolutely repulsive. And you're going to have people that are going to come out and argue, that, hey, he's done all of these good things. So we just should kind of let this slide because the things he's done that are good outweigh the things that he's done that are bad. And it's the same kind of position when we talk about Black History Month later. It's the same kind of position you see with talking about people like the founding fathers. There's this lack of nuance where it's like, yes, we can recognize the good things that they did, but we also just can't sweep the bad things that they did under the rug and not talk about them. And people should have consequences for their actions. In this case, he needs to have some significant consequences for his actions because what he did was threaten a woman's life and got caught.
And he's bringing down somewhere between $40 to $50 an hour right now. 40 probably, I don't know how many hours a week, 30 to 40 hours a week. Paid vacation that ironically the taxpayers of the city of Seattle will by proxy be paying for his defense. Gotta love the system.
Ugh. No, you don't.
Could you imagine someone at Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Facebook doing this to an employee?
No.
They'd be like, you're fired. Yeah. Not only are you fired, like they would never work in this town again at any company that would be worthwhile to work at.
Could you imagine me harassing my students that way, harassing me that way? Like, you might as well just, jump out a window because you wrote such a bad paper. Like, I'd lose my job. I wouldn't get paid, So I don't understand this whole, unionizing and protecting them when they do things like this and making it virtually impossible to administer any consequences of any value for their actions.
Exactly. And with that, I think we need to move on. We'll do a pause for the cause. We'll go to the next segment. Hi, Malcontents. I'm David, the Malcontent, and I'd like to talk to you for a moment about supporting independent media. When you support us, you help us bring the before, during, and after. You help us defend the First Amendment. You help us amplify BIPOC and LGBTQIA voices, and you help us hold leaderships at a local, state, and federal level accountable. None of this would be possible without support by viewers just like you. When you become a patron for as little as $5 a month, you help buy technology, safety equipment, and help cover travel expenses so that we can continue to bring you news that you trust. If you can't become a patron, you can do a one-time donation on Venmo, and your dollars will go to the exact same causes. With your continued support, we can continue to amplify BIPOC and LGBTQIA voices while showing the truth on what is happening in the world around us. Once again, thank you. Jennifer, any opportunity that I get to get my weather geek on just warms my little heart. And I got to totally geek out for about the last 7 days.
Yes, you did.
Oh, and by the way, I can do this now. Nailed it!
Yes. You can actually gloat on screen now instead of just our chat.
4 to 8 inches. SeaTac Airport, 8.9 inches.
Yeah.
I get to gloat by 1/10 of an inch. But but I'll take it. And by the way, I should have fired this off earlier. If you were a new Malcontent, and you're like, oh, you have a show, because we see this happens all the time. We pick up a bunch of people when we have a weather event, and then it's like, oh, God, they do politics and shit. I don't want to see any of that stuff. I don't follow. So here's the thing. Malcontentnews.com. There is a section there, malcontentnews.com, whack category, whack weather. You can just bookmark that. If you just want weather, bookmark that. You can go there for weather. We would love for you to stick around and watch the show and see our other coverage. We might change your mind on some things. It's doubtful in our current society, but we might. But you also get a chance to hear what the other side at least is thinking. And we like open dialogue. And by the way, if you are rational and not of our political stripes, we love your comments. It's just if you're going to come in and type Trump 2024 over and over again, no. That's not contributing to discourse. So we love you. Love us back. Spam those hearts. Let those mods and admins know that they love you. And don't forget to amplify this out. If you're watching us on Facebook, you can share. You could do a watch party. If you're watching us on Periscope or Twitter, you could retweet us out. If you are watching us on Twitch or YouTube, you could go, hey, really cool content right here. But Jennifer, it snowed and everybody was happy. Well, not everybody, and we're going to get into that. But a lot of people were happy.
Yeah, for like a day, but I was tired of not being able to leave my house. And it was wet and cold, and my dog did not want to go outside because it was like up to her belly. So that was kind of a chore. But whatever, it was pretty for a day.
Yoda, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, was a total snow hound. So he was, say, maybe up to about 13 or 14 years old. He's and he would be running and doing like most dogs, rolling in the snow. He's old and he's so over it. He was just like, oh, what the hell is this? Are you kidding me? Yeah. And the cat treated snow like it was hot lava. And I have to confess, I got the cat and I plopped him down in the snow. Like, dude, this is not hot lava. Yeah. And then the cat actually was like running out like through the snow. It was kind of like, oh my God, what's it like? Oh. Oh, this is kind of cool.
Yeah. My dogs did not share that sentiment. My horse doesn't mind the snow, but he's also got like a waterproof blanket on and, whatever. But I was not fond of it. My daughter did not go outside the entire time. She's 17 and she's like, yeah, it's cold and I'll get dirty. But my son was like out there in shorts, running around, sliding down hills, doing all sorts of crazy stuff. Because, he's 14 and that kind of stuff is fun. But yeah, I'm kind of glad it's going away.
So SeaTac Airport received 8.9 inches of snow on Saturday through the combined event. Friday to Saturday received 11.1 inches of snow. The 8.9 inches of snow is actually the most snow to fall in a single day at SeaTac Airport since 1968. And I know that a lot of people, we posted that stat up, will wait. What about this year? What about that year? And so, of course, the first one everyone goes, well, what about 1996? Now, I wasn't here in 1996, but my understanding is that 1996 was a shit show with a turd on top when it came to how much snow fell. The National Weather Service from 1996 to 2003 said punt formation for measuring snow at SeaTac Airport as well as other weather stations. So they didn't measure the snow for those years. So there is no record on how much snow fell at SeaTac Airport. What they did is they melted it down and they just treated it as inches of rain. After 2003, somebody at the National Weather Service went, this was a really stupid idea. Yeah. We should be measuring the snow. So that's why 1996 is out, because we don't know. Mm-hmm. Then the next one, a lot of people go, what about 2008? Now, I was here for 2008, and I was living in the convergent, like in the heart of the conversion zone at that time. But here's the thing. The event over 2008 was spread out over 6 days, and SeaTac Airport never got more than 3 inches in a single day. However, the further north you went, including within the city of Seattle, the closer you got to that convergence zone, the more you got. And Jennifer, at my house, at one point, there was 17 inches of snow on the ground.
Yeah, that's a lot. I remember I was here in 2008. It was like right around Thanksgiving, right? When we had that big snowstorm.
Yep.
Yeah,
That was the December snowpocalypse.
yeah, it was really bad. And then we had another one, what, in like 2019, because that was the year I took my PhD exams, and I had to like put off my oral exams for 6 weeks, and it was the most stressful time of my entire life. So that was fun. Yay, snow.
And then the next one, some people are asking, well, what about 2019? Because February, we set the record for the most snow in a single month. But again, that was spread out over multiple events. We didn't have this singular event that happened. Now, this caused numerous accidents in the area as travel went from difficult to extremely difficult to nearly impossible. We were storm chasing on Friday, and by Saturday, by about 2 in the morning, I-5 was certifiably the worst I have ever seen it in the 21 years that I have lived here, and was darn near impassable from about exit 140 to exit 147 in particular. And we actually have a video clip, Jennifer, that I'm going to share from I-90 on Saturday.
Wow.
Jennifer!
Yeah.
Fire the video editor!
What did you
Fire their ass!
What did you do now?
That video was from Matt Smith.
Yeah, I was texting my mother, so like I
It's
didn't.
gonna be one of those friggin' days. I could just tell it's gonna be one of those free. I'm glad this wasn't a paid client because they would be firing my ass tonight. That video's from Matt Smith. Matt Smith, that is his car in that video. Matt was uninjured for the most part. However, he is an avid skier, and I guess apparently his skis got when he got hit with the truck, got torn off the rack, and his skis are destroyed, and he's really disappointed about that.
Wow. Yeah, well, could have been a lot worse.
Yeah, so, and then there's another thing. I mean, we're talking about this and all of the positives, but there are some negative things. Jennifer and I talked about this on Monday. We talked about this on Thursday, and it played out as kind of we predicted. And this is one of these, I don't want this, I told you so. I want you to be friggin' wrong. I want to be so friggin' wrong on this. And unfortunately, we're not. On Monday, we started reaching out Sunday night to multiple municipalities, asking them what are they going to be doing for warming shelters, particularly on the east side, because we are east side based, so that we cover a ton of stuff in the region and we do some national coverage on things. And we were told that King County said, don't open up any shelters because of COVID. We got it covered. And then they put out an announcement on Wednesday night going, we're going to have stuff open starting Wednesday night, but we don't exactly know where you're going to go on Wednesday night yet. And Jennifer, to this day, I don't know. I'm under the impression that actually nothing ended up open on Wednesday. It was just like they dropped the ball. They opened up 4 shelters for Thursday night, 200 beds to accommodate 12,000 unhomed people. And for the rest, as we had talked about on Thursday, they had opened up a station to distribute tents and sleeping bags. Well, that worked with 8.9 inches of snow. And within the city of Seattle itself, there were a lot of reports of 10 to 12 inches of snow. It went just as we said it would, Jennifer, right? It's like they're not giving them REI Mountaineering $450 4-season snow tents, right? They're giving them minimum essentials, good enough for Seattle in the rain. And the tents all collapsed. There's a ton of unhomed people that had their tents destroyed on Saturday or Sunday and then had nowhere to sleep and everything soaked in the process.
Yeah.
Way to go, Seattle.
Yeah, I know. Seattle should be like so ashamed of itself for the way that it treats unhomed people and the resources that fails to funnel into things that are actually useful rather than just doing lip service. And this is one of those times where you hate to be right about things, but it just goes to show how little of a plan Seattle really has to address this ongoing issue of unhomed people.
It really is. And I keep bringing up the $1 billion a year number, and I'm going to keep hammering the $1 billion a year number. You can help. You can help unhomed people get on their tents. I want to share this out here. So Mutual Aid is working on this. You can send Venmo at Gator Aid, that's AID Ferry, or Cash App at Gator, Gator, Aid Ferry. This is part of Mutual Aid. They are working on buying tents as much as they can to help the unhomed and the unsheltered replace their damaged tents that were collapsed in the snow event. And now they're in the muck and the mud because everything is melting, and we have day of rain today. We're going to get more rain tomorrow.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I mean, I just wish people would just take a moment to think about, just have a little compassion and think about what it must be like to have very few belongings and things of your own as an unhomed person, and to have those things destroyed through a variety of means, through sweeps, through things that are out of your control, like weather. And I just hope that people that have the ability to do so show some compassion and donate to these mutual aid requests, so that people can have a little bit of something that they can call their own during these very difficult times.
And I want to call out and say to our Twitter community in particular, please and thank you. Thank you for tagging us in these, because we do amplify them. We amplify them on Twitter. We'll amplify them on Instagram. If we get these on a day that we're doing happy hour, we're going to amplify them on happy hour. So if there are requests out there for the unhomed community, keep letting us know, because we're going to keep sharing that information out. Jennifer, I think we've talked about snow long enough. I think here's the last question that people have. When's the next snow? As far out as I could see, we don't have anything below freezing as far out as the eye could see. And after tomorrow, our chances for a significant snowstorm start to go down pretty rapidly. I think a lot of people have probably noticed our days have gotten a lot longer in the last couple of weeks.
Yes, I have. It's amazing.
And I think with that, we'll go ahead and do a little pause for the cause again, and we'll move on to our next segment.
Black Coffee is a hub for communities and a hub for meeting people, making friends, and understanding.
What Black Coffee is to me is a place to actually call home, a place where Black youth will feel welcomed, where Black families will come and feel like they're at home.
What we're trying to build is more than just coffee. Community is something that we do naturally. We know who's in the community, we know what the deficits are, and we're trying to fix that. We want to bring people together.
My hope is that the phrase grounded in excellence shows up everywhere and that it becomes a movement.
I'm looking forward to hanging out at Black Coffee with my friends and feeling safe.
Black Coffee to me means opportunity for people like me and my other friends and family to come here and do homework safely and hang out and stuff like that.
That is happening. It is happening.
Black Coffee Northwest, located in Shoreline, Washington, between 170th and 180th on the west side of the highway. They, I always say, check the website or check their Facebook page to find out their latest hours, because they do shift every now and then, and I just want to get it right. The coffee is from Africa. The coffee is amazing. And yes, here we go. Potato scones. Try the potato scones. They are so good. I also want to put a shout out. There's been a bunch of comments over there about Uncle Brad. If you're from Seattle, and if you have followed even 10 seconds of any coverage involved with Black Lives Matter, you know who Uncle Brad is. And Uncle Brad is working on getting like good sleeping bags into the hand of unhomed. And we absolutely love Brad. And Brad, straight up, I miss you, man. Like, really, I miss you. We're way overdue for a vegan cinnamon roll sometime. So think about it. Anyway, with that, we'll go ahead and move into the next segment. It's Malcontented Minutes. And for Malcontented Minutes, this is the part of the show where Jennifer and I, 10 stories, 2 minutes each. We move as quickly as we can to unpack them. 1 minute to tell the story, 1 minute to unpack them. We wiggle maybe 30 or 45 seconds if something goes a little bit over. We're not like, you must do this in 1 minute. Now do it faster. 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 I'm Jewish. I'm allowed.
Oh, okay.
Uncomfortable. Okay, Jennifer, are we ready?
We're ready. Let's do it.
All right, let's do this. Clock is running. Our first story. Oh, wait a minute. We have to stop. We have to stop this. We forgot something to explain. Modded admins, go ahead and put up the poll. The reason this went right past me is we didn't do this on Thursday. You just did the 5. Mods and admins, pop up the link to the poll. At the end of the show, Jennifer and I will unpack the story that you want us to unpack and discuss more. Or if it's a video-based story, we'll play the video a second time. There's some stories that we always do that there's really nothing to unpack. It's just, here's a video of. If you want to see that video another time, you can go ahead and vote for that also. So mods and admins will be putting up the poll for that. You should listen to all 10 stories before you jump into the vote. And with that, Jennifer, we'll go ahead and get started. I'm giving myself a mulligan, like Trump got for overthrowing the government.
Yeah.
Starting the clock, story number 1. RuPaul Drag Race star Sherry Pie, a.k.a. Joey Guglielmelli, has been disqualified from the show after details emerged that he catfished at least 5 men into fake auditions for non-existent roles. In one case, one man even masturbated on a video as part of the requests made by Sherry Pie in the hopes of securing an acting gig. Victims include former classmates at SUNY Cortland in New York and a Nebraska acting group that he once worked with. Sherry Pie released a statement that said in part, and I quote, "I want to start by saying how sorry I am that I caused such trauma and pain and how horribly embarrassed and disgusted I am with myself. I know that the pain and hurt that I have caused will never go away, and I know that what I did was wrong." I lost my place when the timer went off. I was wrong and cruel. Until being on RuPaul's Drag Race, I never really understood how much my mental health and taking care of things meant. Sherry Pie is supposed to be on the Tamron Hall show to tell their side of the story, Jennifer, and there's huge outrage about it. I left you about 45 seconds to unpack it.
Yeah, that's gross. Using your position of authority to sexually exploit people that you see in a lesser position isn't acceptable in any circumstance, and you can't just pawn it off as a mental health issue. It's sexual exploitation in this day and age in the context of the Me Too movement and everything else that is going on. Relative to that, especially in the entertainment industry, I don't see any reason that they should get a pass on this. And I think it's absolutely disgusting. And I think catfishing is a bigger issue that, people need to be more aware of, especially if you're out there online dating or whatever it is that you're doing, engaging with people online. So yeah, this is pretty gross.
I agree. Jennifer, are you ready?
Yes.
The clock is running.
All right. So going back to RuPaul's Drag Race, this is a little bit of this is more of a sad than angry story. So Ari Gold, he's a New York City-based dance music artist and DJ, has died at 47 after a long battle with leukemia, according to several reports. So he was a trailblazing queer dance music artist. He sang with Diana Ross and Cyndi Lauper, collaborated with Boy George, and opened for Chaka Khan. Chaka Khan is amazing. Sorry, I just had to throw that in there. But he also was very close with RuPaul, did some stuff with RuPaul's Drag Race. And RuPaul actually followed up after he was declared cancer-free in 2019 on his podcast. And so he was actually appeared in RuPaul's 2007 movie Star Booty and called him, quote, "the closest thing I've known to a mentor." So they were actually quite close. And after Gold's death, Peppermint 247, who was actually on RuPaul's Drag Race, gave a really nice tribute on Instagram, and also Laverne Cox. So this is a big kind of loss for the LGBTQIA community, and somebody who was very much invested in entertainment and not COVID related, but leukemia, F cancer, all that good stuff. So that's kind of the loss there. And Tyson.
Well, the first thing I have to say, Jennifer, is fuck cancer.
This is written. This is written.
That's the first thing I have to say. The second thing that I have to say, it's interesting, all of the angles here. With you, like, you gave me a lot here to grab on. I saw Shaka Khan in concert years ago and got a chance to meet her. Absolutely amazing individual and absolutely amazing in concerts. This is a sad story for the LGBTQIA community, and I know that Shaka Khan is a big ally of that community.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. We're going to go ahead now to story number 3. Dave Chappelle released a video calling out insurrectionists for their hypocrisy directed at Colin Kaepernick. Chappelle said in the video released on Friday, and I quote, "Watch the tapes," Chappelle said, referring to the riots. "Watch that crowd that told Colin Kaepernick he can't kneel during a football game trying to beat a police officer to death with an American flag." If you remember, if you don't remember this, Colin Kaepernick was an individual football player, NFL outstanding quarterback who started taking a knee during the playing of the national anthem. He was essentially blackballed by the NFL. No team will touch him now. He's considered radioactive because of this action. And then when Black Lives Matter movement started, there were all these wails of, why can't they just protest peacefully? You know, like take a knee during the national anthem. And then we got to see what their view actually was on peaceful protests. Dave Chappelle getting very political, but he delivers it in an amazing way lately. Jennifer, I let you unpack it.
Yeah, so I mean, the whole Kaepernick thing has always been like a hot issue for me, mostly because, I mean, if you think critically about the original like national anthem, the Star Spangled Banner, there are actually very offensive verses from the Star Spangled Banner that are cut out of its modern iteration that reference like the blood of slaves and some other really problematic things that people don't want to address because it doesn't fit in with that American exceptionalist narrative. So the fact that people were so up in arms at him kneeling during the national anthem as this sign of like, you know, very peaceful protest for all of the things that were going on within the Black community in the context of racial inequality, but also police violence and all of these other things. So I think Chappelle makes some really good points and interesting parallels here. And this has always been pretty much, I've never quite understood the outrage other than it's just a lack of education about what the Star Spangled Banner was, who it was written by, who it was written for, and, you know, just kind of like the excluding of the problematic verses people don't want to confront.
I have more thoughts on that, but we need to stick to the rules, so to speak. And if you want us to unpack that story, although I always say you should wait until we do all 10, but if you want to unpack that story, mods and admins, go ahead and drop that link one more time in there for the comments so people can see it and they get an opportunity to vote for theirs. And with that, Jennifer, we'll go ahead. We've got the clock is running.
All right, so back to white men exercising misogyny against women of color. We have Representative of Montana, Steve Daines, indicating that he will try to block the confirmation of Rep. Deb Haaland of New Mexico as Interior Secretary. He says, quote, "I am deeply concerned with the Congresswoman's support on several radical issues that will hurt Montana, our way of life, our jobs, and rural America, including her support for the Green New Deal and President Biden's oil and gas moratorium, as well as her opposition to the Keystone XL pipeline." He goes on to say, quote, "I'm not convinced the Congresswoman can divorce her radical views and represent what's best for Montana and all stakeholders in the West. Unless my concerns are addressed, I will block her confirmation," which is a really kind of professional way of saying, I don't like the fact that this Native woman is going to be in a position of authority and have some power over what's going to happen in our state, which used to be pretty much all Indigenous land and people. So my thoughts to Steve Daines of Montana are that.
So first of all, thanks, Montana. You had a very valid Democrat on the ticket there. Daines actually was considered not able to win or would be a close election, and you voted for Daines. So thanks for that. That's the first thing. The second thing is I don't quite understand what's so radical about the cabinet minister for, I say minister, it's the wrong word, but the Secretary of the Interior wanting to protect the interior. I'm missing something here. And then the last thing is, I don't understand why the Secretary of Interior, that we should have a problem that she wants to address the systemic corruption in the Bureau of Indian Affairs, which quite frankly makes HUD look like it's run by a Boy Scout troop. And I don't mean a creepy Boy Scout troop with a dirtball Boy Scout leader like the nice Boy Scout troop.
Yeah, absolutely. This just smacks with misogyny and racism. So, like, I'm just kind of done with it.
All right, story number 5. Story number 5 takes us to Ireland and the story of a golden retriever named Nisha. Nisha was out for a walk with his owners in the Wicklow Mountains of Ireland when Nisha and his dog brother Harley saw a deer. They both took off running. Harley came back. Nisha didn't. Despite search efforts that included drones putting out bedding, hiking, people searching, after 8 days, Nisha's owners started, and miserable weather, Nisha's owners started to accept that Nisha was probably lost forever. This brings us to Dr. Sierra Nolan and Jean-Francois Bonnet were out for a hike in frigid conditions when they came across a terrified, exhausted, and shivering Nisha who had now been missing for 2 weeks. She was so weak she couldn't even stand up. So Dr. Bonnet carried Nisha over 6 miles and then drove her to an emergency vet. Nisha was dehydrated, cut, had lost a lot of weight, but outside of that, was healthy. They consider it's a miracle she's alive, and she is back home with her grateful owners. There's your good news for the day.
Yeah, there's not a lot of impact to unpack there other than to be like, oh, I mean, what a good story. What a good thing to happen for this dog. Like, I don't have any really thing to unpack there.
It's a great story, right? Spam those hearts. There you go. There's what there is to that story. Spam those hearts for Nisha the dog and her 2-week odyssey in the wilderness of Ireland. And if Nisha could speak, Jennifer,
yes, absolutely,
would have probably a pretty fascinating survival story to tell.
Yes, very much so.
All right, you can start with story number 6.
Okay, so this is another feel-good story. So the University of Cincinnati and Xavier got into this tip war over the last month that began when a fan left a $1,001 tip at a Keystone Bar and Grill, along with a note encouraging others to keep the tip war going. So of course, this is a competition between the University of Cincinnati and Xavier. And so they were consistently topping each other's generous tips at local restaurants. And about over the course of 1 month, $34,000 have been raised to support restaurant workers in Cincinnati hurt by the pandemic. So it all started at Zips Cafe in early January when Xavier alumnus visiting the school with his daughter left a $1,000 tip on a $54 bill, along with a note for his fellow Xavier alumni server. And it said, quote, "Please share this tip with all of your employees as they work so hard and are dealing with COVID. Go Xavier," end quote. The man wrote. And so this continued on between Xavier and the University of Cincinnati until they raised over $34,000. And I think this is an absolutely wonderful story. And it all went to restaurant workers, who are working their butts off during COVID to, get people who don't feel like cooking, food.
It's a great story. See, I'm in the same boat. There isn't much to unpack outside of that, except for what a fantastic story. Yeah. I've had highs and lows this week in the good of the world and the bad of the world. And I still choose, Jennifer, to go, there's good in the world out there.
Yes.
All right. With that, I'm going to go ahead, I guess, and we'll restart the clock. And I'm going to go on to story number 7. The CDC has released a study that visits to hospital emergency rooms were down from June 2019 to May 2020, but visits for overdoses specifically were up 45%, and opioid overdoses were up 29%. given the time range involved, this can't all be accounted for COVID-19. People have avoided going to the ER out of fear of catching COVID when going to the hospital, and drug use due to isolation and depression has definitely gone up. Still, the period of the increase only represents a few months of lockdown. It's worth noting, Jennifer, that despite a promise by former social media icon Donald Trump when he was president, he would address the opioid crisis, the numbers only increased during his time in the White House. And I'll add one other thing that's not in the show notes, and only some token fines were handed out to companies that architected the crisis in the first place. You get 60 seconds to unpack that, and I'm sure you're going to have some choice comments.
Yeah, I mean, 60 seconds? Thanks. No, I mean, this is something that continues to be an issue that has gone, unaddressed. And I mean, of course, COVID is going to contribute to an escalating use of drugs and other coping mechanisms of all kinds based on the isolation. And we know that mental health has tanked for a lot of people during this period of isolation, during the pandemic. But the fact that this has gone largely unaddressed for the last 4 years, and these companies that are architecting these addictions have paid little to no consequences for that is so egregious and gross. And you have to think about the number of people who've lost their lives as a result of this. And these companies are essentially murderers. And the people that are choosing to stand behind it and do nothing, the Trump administration for 4 years doing nothing, are in the same boat. They're murderers.
Yeah, basically. And not just the Trump administration. Some of this lands on the feet of the Bush 43 administration, and a lot of it falls at the feet of the Obama administration.
Yeah.
There's plenty of love to go around. And that's all I'll say, because if you want us to talk more about this, you can vote in the poll, and we'll unpack that one more. Jennifer, you can go on to story number 8.
Okay, so I am a huge UFC fan. Anybody who knows me knows that I love UFC. And so I watch UFC Fight Night faithfully every weekend. I pay for the pay-per-views because it is the one little small luxury in my life. So this weekend was UFC 258. And there was this great fight. Julian Marquez, he wins his match at UFC 258 and then comes out afterwards and it's like, Miley Cyrus, I want you to be my Valentine. And I think we have a little bit of a clip, David, of that.
I've been waiting 31 months to get on this damn mic and to call these people out right now. It's my time to shine. So Miley Cyrus, will you be my Valentine's?
Miley, you heard the call out.
Let's go.
It's your turn to respond.
Jennifer!
I
Who did the videos?
Was not me. Was not me. That was not the Seattle Fire Department.
That was not the Seattle Fire Department. That was ESPN Plus.
That was ESPN Plus. So Marquez, he calls himself the Cuban Missile Crisis. Which is really weird. This like Kansas corn-fed guy with no tattoos, which is really weird for UFC. And he comes out and he's like, Miley Cyrus, I want you to be my Valentine. She responds and she's like, if you shave MC into your chest hair, then I'm all yours. And then he came back and was like, okay, only if you get a henna tattoo of a Cuban Missile Crisis somewhere. She has yet to respond. Everybody's like, dude, you blew your shot. He's like, no, I still have a shot. I don't think he does or ever really did, but whatever. Live your dream, dude.
All right, so here's my unpack comment on this. One, I would never picture you for a UFC fan. Yes. That aside, number 2, learn something new. Yes. Number 2, he has almost no chest hair in that video. So I think that was kind of a, no. Change your genetics and get a hairy Jewish man chest or Italian man chest. Then we can talk.
Yes. Also, I have a mean right cross. So the UFC thing makes sense.
Okay. We're going to go ahead and do number 9. And we're going to have to fire the video editor on this one too, because I can tell you it's going to be screwed up. But here you go. Enjoy some animals loving life in the Oregon Zoo with all the snow and cold.
Tongues move up. Good boy, bud. Oh.
All right, Jennifer, I get to keep my job for one more day, and you have 40 seconds to unpack that.
I got nothing. That was adorable. We already talked about red pandas before the show. Yeah. So I got nothing. I feel like I would have got, was that a sea lion that was rolling?
I think so, yes. I
Yeah.
think. I'm
Yeah.
not up on my seal mammals.
Yeah. I just know because they kind of look like, I know if I hold my pug's ears down, he looks like a sea lion. No.
I actually would have stuff to unpack. Malcontents, we're to story number 10. After you hear story number 10, it's your turn to go ahead and vote. And with that, Jennifer, we'll reset the clock. Story number 10.
Okay, so this is actually some more good news. And so this first came from Indian Country Today. And it's 6 Indigenous artists have won $50,000 prizes for their, quote, bold artistic vision. And each is honored for, quote, inspiring curiosity, empathy, and action toward building a more honest and just world. These 6 artists are from all over, Native nations all over the country. So we have Kanuba Hanska Luger, Nathan P. Jackson, who's actually Tlingit, and Tlingit peoples are of the Pacific Northwest, Alaska, Canada, and 4 others. And as Luger notes, and he was the correspondent from Indian Country Today who actually broke this story, it's important to see awards in context with outside impact. Actually, Luger is one of the artists. My apologies. I got excited. So it's important to see awards in context with the outsized impact of the pandemic on Native communities. So this is really important because COVID-19 is killing 1 in 475 Native Americans, which is a higher and faster death rate than in any other community, according to new analysis by APM Research Lab published by The Guardian. So the pandemic script makes it both harder and more urgent to surface stories of strength right now. And while this creative funding is like by no means a substitute for immediate fixes to this pandemic and what it has done to Native nations across the country, it's all of the above efforts, and art as an amplifier and material medical solutions as demand that tells the fuller picture. So these people are getting these $50,000 awards. I'm sorry, I'm like super excited about the story. Awards to create this art within their communities, and they're kind of using it to kind of like not only push back against the ways in which Native peoples have been treated within the larger settler community, but it's kind of like resistance to the pandemic, resistance to settler colonialism, and it's a really, really great thing. And as you can tell, I'm super, super excited about it.
You are super excited. I was left no time to unpack it, so I'm just going to say I love it. Malcontents, this is the time. The polls are open. Mods and admins, if you could go ahead, drop the link into the poll. For the poll, I mean, into the chat. Go ahead and vote. Vote for the story that you want Jennifer and I to unpack. I would say that we have stuff that we could unpack on almost all of the stories there. I think there's one we would struggle to unpack a little bit, other than what a great story. Yeah. So, Jennifer, you want to do Black History Month while we're still in Malcontented Minutes?
Yes. So Black History Month, and I'm coupling up. Oh, can I talk or sorry? So Black History Month, we've been doing this every happy hour, just kind of highlighting some kind of book, art, something created by Black people throughout the month. This one ties into President's Day, and this is a book called Never Caught: The Washingtons' Relentless Pursuit of Their Runaway Slave Ona Judge by African-American female historian Erica Armstrong Dunbar. And this is a fantastic book, and it details how George and Martha Washington actually relentlessly pursued this runaway slave. Washington was elected president. He reluctantly left behind Mount Vernon to serve in Philadelphia, which was the temporary seat of the government at that time. But Washington was a slaveholder, and there's a lot of things coming out now about Washington and the ways in which he interacted with his slaves. There's that whole kind of like myth about his wooden dentures when actually some of them were composed of slave teeth. But they pursued this young woman throughout her life. And because of the 1793 Fugitive Slave Act, she was actually, even though she escaped, she was actually what was considered a dowry slave throughout her life, and a fugitive, and her children were fugitives throughout their life. And this is an amazing book. And we're talking about historical nuance, and we were talking about the ways in which you cannot excuse the bad things that people did in favor of highlighting the good. So this is, George Washington, primary founding father that everybody associates with the founding fathers, relentlessly pursuing a slave along, with his wife. And he actually leveled his political connections to try and hunt her down and find her. So this is an amazing book. Our wonderful mods have the link to it. You guys should check it out.
Yeah, absolutely. We say this every time we do the Black History Month. Jennifer and I made a conscious decision that her and I, as two pasty white people coming up here and going, let's talk to you about Black history, and here's the topic we're going to cover. Yeah, not our lane, because we're pasty white people. So instead, what Jennifer has been doing is identifying pieces that you can go to watch, read, invest in, to learn about Black history, but most importantly, pieces that have been created, researched, and written by the Black community specifically. So you are hearing it from a Black voice, and you're also supporting Black scientists, Black researchers, Black authors, Black video producers, Black documentarians, depending on what we highlight on the particular day. And Jennifer, I deeply appreciate you doing that for us.
No problem. I hope people
All right, I think we're going to do
them.
a little pause for the cause. And we're going to jump right into our next section. Vote, vote, vote. Vote early, vote you can't vote multiple times. You've set it up that way. Jennifer, I'm just getting a call right now. Hello? Sydney Powell, what do you want?
Oh, Jesus.
I promise you there is no cheating in the poll. Who? He's watching us? He said I'm a bad reporter. He's upset about the social media icon thing? Say you're going to sue me? Talk to me later. All right, Malcontents, pause for the cause.
Said, hey, we're gonna have to start moving people, and then a couple other people came in and we were like,
Seattle police to be held accountable for their actions. We're not going without no justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace.
Can You Hear Us is our documentary about the events that happened on June 1 to July 4th in Seattle. Events that have changed the city and will forever be an indelible ink on the story of Seattle. Our patrons have already had access to it, and as our new patrons have come on board, we've given them immediate access at any level. Can You Hear Us is going to be released in about 2 weeks. It will be released for the entire world to see, so that you can see the story. It might be delayed a day or two on that, because as we've told a couple of times, we found about 30 hours of other video that either is higher quality than what is in the documentary or adds to the story of the documentary. We need to add those sections in. And I know I am really excited to get this out to the general audience, and I know I'm really excited to get these extra clips in there.
Yeah.
All right, Jennifer, we're going to roll the next section.
Let's do it.
Jennifer, I'm going to turn it over to you because I'm going to turn it over to you.
Yeah. So, you were doing some storm chasing on Friday, February 12th, and drove to Olympia with a plan to stop along Ruston and Tacoma and Alki in West Seattle, but you stopped at Ruston where it was 25 degrees, heavy snow, and a wind chill of 10 degrees, which is absolutely freezing. There was a snow-covered parked SUV in the parking lot, and just as you were leaving, a woman in a skirt emerged. You asked if she was okay, and she said she needed a jump start. During the conversation, you learned that the woman was unhomed and living in her car, and was able to get her car restarted. And donations, of course, poured in on the spot, over $650. And you had her follow you to a nearby hotel to make sure she got there safely. And the plan was to have her stay Friday through Sunday. After negotiating the rate, however, you got it from Friday to Tuesday to make sure that she was sheltered through the worst of the cold and snow, and raised enough money to replace her car battery with a Die-Hard battery from Sears, and enough money to fill up her gas tank and get groceries for a week. So she is so deeply appreciative of all of you. She was at an extreme risk of being unhomed in these weather conditions without a way to run her vehicle to stay warm. So these contributions made a huge difference in this woman's life. And just wanted to express the appreciation for that. And just, making a difference for one person. It's, not a, there's so many unhomed people out there, but being able to just make this difference for one person and give them some comfort in a time of need is a huge thing. They're very much appreciative, and we just wanted to be able to share that with you.
Yeah. I don't like tooting my own horn, and I don't take compliments very well. And I will just say that this was a community effort. It was because of all of you. I was there. And for me, that's what it boils down to. The part, there's two things, Jennifer, in this story. There's three things. The first thing is we had gotten out of the car at that point to go, in the hope, actually, I went down to that part of Tacoma and Ruston because typically you could see the lights over on the other side. And I thought, it'll be nice with the hazy snow. This will be some good shots. And it was actually snowing so hard that you were just looking into a black void. There was nothing that you could see on the other side. Yeah. And the wind was howling, and I know I was out there for a few minutes, and my capabilities of dealing with cold is the stuff of legend. And I was actually having a hard time holding the camera and not be like this, despite the fact, I'm in a hat, I'm in gloves, I'm in a coat, because the wind was just cutting right through me, Jennifer. And I know I started talking about, just like, cats, just, try to imagine being unhomed in this. I'm standing outside for just 5 or 10 minutes with the camera. And then boom. And the second thing then that jumps out to me as a former EMT, Love was in grave danger out there. And if Love had never stepped out of her vehicle was snow covered, it did catch my eye in the parking lot when I saw that it was completely covered in snow and looked like it had been sitting there for a while. My thought was, someone just left their car there, or they decided they didn't want to drive in the snow, and they called someone to come pick them up. That was my thought. Yeah. Love could have frozen to death had she never opened that door up. I don't know if she really appreciated the degree of danger that she was in that moment. That's the second thing that jumps out at me. And the third thing is, y'all are wonderful. You're absolutely amazing. And there are so many people that in that moment, were like, let's do something. And I know in the comments, I think some people were like, because I could see it flying in the comments, ask her this and ask her that. And it was her business. I wasn't going to put it on blast and have this conversation with the camera rolling with her. And that's why I did it with her outside with the car closed when we were able to get her car started. Love has a new car battery. She was almost, I could hear the tears in her voice when I was talking to her on the phone today. She has her Sears Die-Hard battery that she dreamed of getting. And she said that the car is running much better. I am grateful that the folks at Sears, because of their reputation, didn't attempt to cash-ectomy on her and just stuck with a good quality battery for her. And again, she told me that she had enough money left over to buy herself plenty of food and fill up the gas tank on her car. and she is super grateful. I did talk to her, and she volunteered this, that she is unhome by choice, that she likes the freedom to travel and go to different places and see different things. And she volunteered that. I didn't pry it out of her. I think people at this point kind of know the person that I am. So Jennifer, thank you for, I know people have been asking, I know the mods were hammering me and people are asking, and I'm like, I don't want to shine a flashlight on myself on this. So thank you for shining the flashlight. There's actually a couple of, because this was being streamed and a lot of people saw it, there's actually a couple of media outlets who have reached out to me that want to do a deeper story on this, and I'll have to digest that.
Yeah, it's a wonderful thing. And I know that you hate taking compliments and things, but you know, this was a wonderful thing that you did. It was a wonderful way to gather resources for a person who really needed that. And you shouldn't feel bad or awkward or anything about taking a little bit of credit for the good things that you do, because they come from a good place. It's, you know, we talk about altruism all the time. This is altruism at its best. And so you shouldn't feel bad for, you know, the little bit of attention that you get from that, because it's coming from a good place. And I know that you'll channel whatever attention you get into more resources for people that deserve them.
Yeah, one thing, because I'm seeing in the comments, we're not talking about Diaz Love. We're talking, that's Diaz Love is they, and Love is their last name. We were talking about a person. Love is the name that they go by. I'll tell you the story because I don't think there's anything in there. Again, also volunteered to me. Goes by the name Love because has a birthmark that is shaped like a heart. And so people call her that because of the birthmark. That's not her name, and I'm going to respect the fact. I know her full name, but I'm going to respect the fact and not share that. But we are not talking about Diaz Love here. Again, thank you everybody for your on-the-spot generosity. It was really amazing. There was an individual, I hope you were watching tonight, because there were over 2,000 comments in our thread. I'm amazed at how many people, totally unrelated to this story, I am amazed at how many people watched me drive a car for 5 hours. I'm stunned at the viewer numbers. I should just go drive around with the camera running more often, apparently. Yes. I get it. I'm driving around in lots of snow and really hairy road conditions, which probably made it more fascinating. Somebody in the comments said that they could potentially get a 30-day housing voucher for Love. Love's hotel room expires tomorrow. Love flat out said that she's fine with that. You know, she likes her nomadic lifestyle. And but on the other side of the coin, if some of you saw her limping in that video on Friday, what she had told me was she had fallen and she's kind of all bruised up on that side. She had slipped in the snow earlier in the day, and she was super grateful for the hotel room because the next day she was, if people have fallen hard, you know this, you've experienced this. She was almost unable to move because she was just so bruised up on that one side. So she was super grateful to have a warm, soft bed and a hot shower. But anyway, whoever you are, we can't find your comment so if you're watching, please PM us or send an email to tips@malcontentment.com. It's right there on the screen. All right. And so with that, Jennifer, we're falling way behind. Let's jump into the next story.
Okay.
We haven't done a COVID Fast 5 in a long time, Jennifer, but that's what we're going to do. We're going to do a COVID Fast 5, and we're going to be fast about it. You can go ahead and start with story number 1.
Oh, boy. So 7 variants of COVID-19 have now been identified in the United States. All 7 have a similar mutation to their protein spikes, including B117, the UK variant, and B11351, the South African variant, and Q677P, a US variant. UK variant and South African variants have also mutated, creating 2 versions, and finally, the P1 variant was identified in South America. The one creating the most concern is B1351, the South African variant, and its cousin, B1351P1. South Africa stopped using the AstraZeneca vaccine after concluding it wasn't effective enough, and it was also identified to be resistant to therapies. There is growing concern that current vaccines will have to be updated in an ongoing struggle to stop COVID spread. Scientists believe that B117, UK variant, will be the dominant US strain by the end of March, and that's not that far away.
No, it's not. Yay, us. Jennifer, like it's a piece of paper. Oh, wow. That was a great throw. Like it's a piece of paper at the camera lens. I'm starting, and we don't have a lot of time to unpack this.
Yeah.
I will never be an anti-masker because I believe in science and masks friggin' work. And if you don't think masks are work, if you ever have to see my wife in the surgery at the hospital, I'm sure you're probably pretty freaking happy that she wears a mask when you're cut open. Yes. So mask work. But Jennifer, I'm drifting into this camp of we're going to have to figure out how to live with COVID, and endless partial shutdowns aren't the answer. Yep. Unless we fundamentally change how society operates and put a bigger safety net under people that are going to fall through the cracks. And the people that fall through the cracks, they don't care about your friggin' politics, left or right. People from both sides are on the brink. Anyway, that's where my stat is at.
Yeah.
Malcontents, let us know what you think about that in the comments. I'm sure you got opinions on it, and I'm sure my opinion is controversial. With that, I'm going to move to story number 2. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo is under increasing fire for not accurately reporting COVID infection rates and deaths in New York nursing homes. And despite knowing the severity of the problem, moving additional facilities and people into impacted facilities. The New York Post broke this story. Today, Governor Cuomo acknowledged if he could rewind the tape when it came to releasing requested nursing home data, his administration would have gotten it out sooner. Recently, state lawmakers are calling for investigations, stripping the governor of his emergency powers, and even calling for his resignation from a few Republicans as new details have emerged. I find it a bit ironic, Jennifer, position from them as the overwhelming data to the contrary on the severity of COVID and the Republican Party's view on the severity of COVID, or how it's no big friggin' deal, and also their view on try to overthrow the U.S. government.
Yeah.
But somehow this is worse.
Yeah. So wasn't it like one of the, Republican, organizations in New York that had a big Christmas party where they were all doing a conga line unmasked and had a super spreader event? So it seems a little bit, ironic that they're calling for his resignation when, they're out there doing the conga unmasked during the holidays and spreading it around like it's, I don't know, something.
You've attached this into the issues of the elites, and I know that Bill Gates has done so much in the space, but I got to tell you, I kind of threw up in my mouth a little bit when I saw his 24-year-old daughter going, "I'm getting my first COVID shot."
Yes.
Do better.
Yeah. So I was having this conversation with my son earlier about Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos and the hoarding of wealth and, rich people, because he's like, "Oh, Tesla's great," and Elon Musk. And I was like, no, he's 14. So don't be angry at him. He doesn't quite understand. But we were actually having this conversation earlier. So it's interesting that you brought that up. All right. So moving on to story number 3.
Hold on story number 3, because I want to do a shout out to one of the comments that came here. Kimberly, I see your comment. The person has never emailed me. If you could ping her again. She has not emailed us. We would love to interview her, but we haven't heard from her. And again, because of my involvement and multiple connections in the medical community, I cannot in good conscience reach out to her. So Kimberly, if you can reach out to her, she has to make the initial contact. Jennifer, with that, I'll give it back over to you.
So U.S. hospitalization for COVID are down to 65,000, the lowest level since November 11, 2020, according to the COVID Tracking Project website. The website reports that 13,799 patients are in ICU, and of those, 4,454 are on ventilators. New tests are down in the last week, in part to severe weather that has swept the country, closing test clinics from coast to coast. Deaths remain, however, at about 3,000 a day, 7-day moving average, but progress is being made. And for now, it appears concerns of a Christmas and New Year's Eve spike were unfounded.
See, this is one where I like to be wrong. I'm happy I'm wrong on this one, Jennifer. I'm real happy. The data that's coming out is really good, and it's really good across the board. Death is a tailing indicator. That's why we are still seeing these deaths very, very high. 4,500 round math Americans still on ventilators tonight. Once you go on a ventilator, your odds are very, very poor, which is sad, but everything is in the right trajectory. The big question that we're going to see is going to come here end of March into April. Did Super Bowl trigger some issues? And how much is the vaccine impacting? And if they are right about the UK version becoming the dominant version, how much impact is that going to have? If the UK version becomes the dominant version because the South African version has also appeared here, this country has missed a bullet that the UK version is more virulent and able to spread faster than the South African one, because the South African one's in my opinion, is the scary one. Goes after younger people. Vaccines aren't super effective on it. The AstraZeneca one, when I say it doesn't work, it's under 50%, which from a clinical standpoint means it doesn't work. And it doesn't really respond to a lot of the therapies that are available.
Well,
So
the thing we have coming up too is the potential fallout from spring break, right?
yes, that's the other one. So we'll have to see.
Yeah.
All right, our next story number 4 is closer to home right here in Washington State. The entire state has moved to phase 2 reopening. That means restaurants and bars can reopen at 25% capacity, along with gyms, fitness centers, yoga studios, bowling alleys, and movie theaters. The first COVID death in Washington State was February 13th, 2020. I know some people are going, no, it wasn't. It was a 26 or 20. It was discovered after the fact, but attribution on the first death, so it was 1 year, 2 days ago. In the year that has passed, Washington State has struggled with moving targets on balancing both public health and state commerce.
Oh, boy. How do you feel about this reopening, David?
Well, I think I expressed that kind of in the first story, where there's more and more evidence that this isn't going to go away.
Yeah.
That it all depends. The problem, ironic cough. The problem is, as I see it, if people follow the rules on paper, this should work.
Yes.
The problem that you run into is there are restaurants and bars and others are just, hey, come on in. And that's the problem. So, and now that things are open, enforcement is going to be a bigger challenge overall. I know, like, for instance, grocery stores still supposed to be at 25%. And we shared pictures on our Twitter, weeks ago when I was in a Trader Joe's. There was no way that place was at 25%. It was like walking in on the day before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's face it, people in bars, when you've had enough drinks, you don't make good choices. I don't know. I just feel like, sure, in theory, it's a good idea, but getting people to adhere to these capacities is a whole other ballgame. I don't even know what we do to get past this anymore, but I'm kind of in the same kind of train of thought as you, is that, this doesn't look to be going anywhere. So how do we figure out how to live with this?
How to live with it in a formula that isn't casualties are, a
Yeah.
certain number of casualties are acceptable. And when I say a certain number of casualties, I'm not saying get it down to 0, but 100,000 Americans dying a year should not be 100,000 Americans dying a month, not a year, a month. That's what we had in January, just shy of 100,000. That is not acceptable casualties. Hey, mods and admins, it's time to let Jennifer and I know what's the winning story. You probably got like a minute or two to go ahead and get those votes in. And don't forget to spam those hearts. It lets our mods and admins know you love the great work that they're doing. And the other thing it does is it messes with the algorithm and gets us more eyeballs. And we like eyeballs. Jennifer, take it away. Story number 5.
Okay, so for story number 5, we have a bipartisan group of governors that have signed a letter submitted to President Joe Biden asking for the administration to apply better transparency for vaccine rollout and the number of doses states can expect. The Trump administration lost 20 million vaccine doses, had no national stockpile, and apparently no plan. The Biden administration has reported they now have secured enough doses for the entire U.S. population, which would be about 660 million total. As the latest direct pharmacy and direct community health center programs roll out, the governors asked the administration in Monday's letter to change the way by which the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, reports vaccine distribution and administration to people, which they said currently creates, quote, unnecessary confusion. The governor said that the NGA wants the CDC to distinguish how much vaccine is being sent to states for them to administer and how much is being dispersed to people in each state through the direct federal programs. To complicate things, of course, 5 U.S. states are suffering major power outages, which will likely destroy tens of thousands of doses.
Yeah, there is. I purposely avoided the Texas story because people are, we're going to do the Texas story. I'm like, no, we're not going to do the Texas story. We might do the Texas story on Thursday. I'll just totally geek out and it'll become a 3-hour show. The second thing is there is a real humanitarian crisis that I really don't think is getting the coverage that it deserves. That is going on in not just Texas, but it is expanding across different states. The impact of the snowstorm, ice storm, wind, and unbelievable cold temperatures that they are having there is literally collapsing the electrical grid. And when I say collapsing the electrical grid, I don't mean windstorm here, power lines are down, or say if they had a Category 5 hurricane go through there. What's happening is, if you live here, let me explain it to you this way. If you live here in the Pacific Northwest, we've experienced this. We hear a loud boom somewhere. Lights go out for like a second, and then the lights come back on. And what happened is a transformer at a substation somewhere blew up. That's the loud boom. Because a branch hit it or a wire got pulled or whatever. But the electrical system, the grid went, okay, I got to reroute electricity so that way I can isolate the number of places that have lost power. That's why you lose the power, and then that's why it goes, and you get the more power. What's happening in places in Texas, it is rerouting power as they're having these cascading failures to the point that the power lines are getting so overloaded, they are literally exploding. They are exploding like toaster elements. And in some cases, they have started fires because they are raining down when they hit the ground. And so the whole system is in collapse to the point that in Texas, there are almost over 4.5 million people as we talk tonight that have no electricity. And these are people, Jennifer, in houses, some of them that have no heat, literally have no heat because there is no reason to have heat in their houses. But part of those electrical failures is the Moderna vaccine requires these super heavy duty freezers to be stored at temperatures of like 80 below or 100 below zero. So there is no running out to put them in the snowbank and go, well, it's zero. That's good enough. And with these power outages and but they have backup generators and natural gas. There is such a demand for natural gas in Texas that the pressure in the gas lines are dropping off, that the pilot lights are going out. They're running out of natural gas because the system is under so much stress. And the worst part of all, Jennifer, is They got another ice storm coming up Tuesday night and Wednesday, just when they really don't need it. It's truly a humanitarian crisis. I am deeply concerned that we are going to be hearing some terrible, terrible stories by the end of the week there of suffering and worse.
Wow. Yeah, that's insane. The fact that they're running out of natural gas is just insane to me.
Not a religious person. I've said that many. I say I'm a terrible Jew, but you know, if praying's your thing, or lighting a candle, or just send some good thoughts.
Yeah.
Send some good thoughts out to the universe, to the state of people in the state of Texas. They're not all chuds. Matter of fact, remember that state actually has nothing to do with politics at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Natural disasters don't care if you're blue, red, insurrectionary anarchist, or you were in Washington, D.C. on the 6th wanting to burn the Capitol down. So put a thought out there to the universe for them. Put some money in your Good Karma bank account. Jennifer, with that, on the subject of Good Karma bank account, let's move to our last section. Mods and admins, winning story. It might have scrolled by and we may have missed. Oh, I see it. It's Colin Kaepernick. Okay, that's story, but we've got one more. Here we go. Jennifer, there was this impeachment trial thing that happened that we were covering right up until I didn't get home until like 4:30 in the morning on Saturday, and I didn't have in the gas tank to stay up until 7:30 to start, or 7 in the morning our time, to start the coverage. And they were able to convince 2 senators, right? They started at 55, they got 56, and then they got 57. And so
yeah,
I missed.
And the worst part was watching the defense. As somebody who constructs arguments, like that's my job, I had no idea what the hell was going on there. They did things that negated their own argument. Like, I was in physical pain at some points trying to watch that show, but then you realize about 3/4 of the way through it, doesn't really matter anyways, because half of the Republicans are like zoning out, probably like reading their Bibles or something. I don't know. Josh Hawley's like got his feet up on a chair looking at other stuff. You got Lindsey Graham and Ted Cruz going to meet with the defense. Like, it's just the most I'm in awe of how just sci-fi dystopian weird that was.
I hope that historians 100 or 200 years from now will teach this as, what the fuck were they thinking?
F-bombs. This is written. This is written.
So, 3 years, maybe 10.
I don't know if we're going to have a republic as we know it in 10 years, because apparently trying to overthrow the government is okay. Mitch McConnell, and the central argument was, well, he's not president anymore, so you don't have impeachment. So you can go ahead and criminally prosecute him if you want. But of course, the defense will be, well, I was president then, so you can't criminally prosecute me. So we already know they're basically calling for a January exception to the Constitution and the articles of impeachment. The other thing is that they must be confident in this view, because to say go ahead and criminally prosecute him if you want puts him in far greater legal jeopardy. There is no fines. There is no prison term. There is no impeachment. Is just you can't run again. That's it. That was the only recourse that was left, which in the big scheme of things looks like a logical recourse. Mm-hmm. But Mitch McConnell refused to sit the Senate before January 19th. And the way that the Constitution was written, by refusing to sit the Senate before January 19th, there's 24 hours before they can acknowledge the articles of impeachment were handed off to them, which would have taken them to 1 hour after Joe Biden was sworn in. So Mitch was in on the fix the whole time, and Mitch once again demonstrates he has too much power There is something broken in our process for a single senator to have that much power. And he's really in Donald Trump's back pocket.
So, hey, David, what happened last time someone in a country tried to overthrow a government and they didn't really get any punishment for it?
Am I missing something? I can't think of a last time.
Like, I don't know, in Germany, when somebody tried to overthrow a government.
Yes.
And nothing really happened. And what happened after that?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And this is why I say I don't know if we're going to have a republic in 10 years. And I still continue to say, I don't know if Trump is ultimately the threat, because we don't know where his health is going to be in 4 years, right? He'll be 78 and change. He's not as healthy as Joe Biden. That has clearly been demonstrated already. I know some Sleepy Joe, whatever, but he's not, right? We saw some of these videos that I know his followers just dismissed, but there was at West Point going down the ramp, which was an alarming video. There were multiple reports at multiple events that he was so out of shape. He was like, hey, you need to get me a golf cart for my fat ass because I can't walk that friggin' far. And we saw Joe Biden tap dancing to the White House with a broken foot. So don't forget, he had a broken foot when he walked to the White House.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I think, we've talked about this in the past, Josh Hawley being the biggest threat. Also, I mean, can we just take a minute to talk about Ted Cruz's new haircut? What the hell?
You go ahead. All business up front, insurrection in the back.
Yeah, it's insane. I was like, is he trying to bring the mullet back? Yeah, that was a lot. I got a good look at that today, and I was like, wow, why are more people not talking about this?
Don't break my heart, my achy, breaky heart. I just don't think it understands. I mean, there's a lot of us who are Generation X, Jennifer, and men have pictures of this very unfortunate haircut that has aged horribly.
Yeah. And Cruz is single-handedly trying to bring it back again. Maybe that's going to be the haircut of white supremacy.
I would love to know Gen Z's hot take on this. Is this right? Because skinny jeans are apparently out. And like the side part, I don't have a part anymore, right? But the side part is out.
I have a side part. I hate skinny jeans, though.
Look, this what? I'm like, what? I don't. So, I guess the last thought I have on this, Jennifer, is if you're an insurrectionist, you must be feeling like, especially the ones that are sitting in jail cells right now, you must feel pretty screwed over at this point.
Yeah. Feel pretty abandoned by dear leader, huh?
Yeah. Here's the thing. Was this a combo 1923 and a Night of the Long Knives without actually stabbing people? Did we eliminate some people by essentially we're going to throw them under the bus in the justice system that could try to stop the bigger plan that they're working on? And I don't think you need to wear a tinfoil hat to go, there's something bigger cooking in this kitchen.
Yeah, definitely. Sorry, the mods are...
Nope.
Oh, it's the mods. They said that you looked at the wrong post in the chat, and it's actually pioneering LGBTQIA artist dies of leukemia that won the poll vote.
Oh, that's the winning story.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm glad we saw that. Because I just saw like half of it, and I thought it was the Cap story. So maybe Cap, I don't know. I saw something about Cap, and then I saw the otters or the zoo stuff. So with that...
Texting boys, people, I'm with the mods or my mom.
So with that, go ahead. Jennifer, it's your story, so start the convo.
Yeah, so I mean, this was a big loss for the LGBTQIA community. Ari Gold was considered cancer-free in 2019, had some really great connections, did some wonderful things, like I said, doing backup vocals for Diana Ross and Cyndi Lauper. And he actually continued to work with RuPaul. We've talked about that, and RuPaul actually wrote a really nice tribute to him. But he was a dancer and a singer. He was born and raised in the Bronx, New York, and he actually had a 2007 single called "Where the Music Takes You." He released 7 albums over the course of his career, and his collaborations, as we mentioned, included Boy George, Jen Ross, and Cyndi Lauper. He also released his 2001 self-titled album, followed by one in 2004, and one that he actually dedicated to Madonna, and his music became really popular in dance clubs. He continued writing music and actually was on the documentary Fabulous, the story of queer cinema, and then a year later, of course, was in RuPaul's Star Booty. Alongside music, Gold spent time celebrating his great gay pride, not just through music, but through his activism within the LGBTQIA community. And he worked with homeless gay youth and helped to raise awareness for HIV and AIDS. So this is going to be a big loss, not only in the context of entertainment, but also in the LGBTQIA community, because he did lots of really meaningful work. So
now I have the sads because,
yeah,
47, there was still a lot of miles on the odometer and a lot of things ahead of what sounds like a very talented individual that for most people wasn't a household name.
Yeah. And he had a lot of really important connections. And there's so many people out there on social media right now paying really great and meaningful, thoughtful, heartfelt tributes to him. And so I think, if people have time and they're more interested in the story, go and search us out. Look at, Laverne Cox's tribute to Gold. Of course, RuPaul's, they were very close, but there's a ton of really meaningful, thoughtful tributes to Gold out there right now.
And I know Cyndi Lauper in particular is a tremendous advocate for the LGBTQIA community. Actually, on our TikTok, that is her charity is the one, because you get to pick a charity to support. And we actually support Cyndi Lauper's charity on our TikTok. And yes, we have a TikTok. There's like 4 or 5 videos up there. But we can say we're among the cool kids.
Yeah, totally. We're gonna have to get lessons for my daughter or something. I don't know. My daughter's gonna be 17 on Thursday, and I'm freaking out.
Oh my goodness! You're gonna have to go look for liver spots in another year.
I'm only 44. Let's not get crazy. So yeah, this is a sad thing. Maybe go back, if people are interested, and go back and look at some of Gold's work, both some of the stuff he did on his own, and some of the things he did supporting other people. But yeah, this is a big loss, both for the entertainment and the LGBTQIA community. Not COVID related, leukemia, cancer sucks.
Jennifer, thank you for that. I want to pop up. I hope I'm going to hit the right button here. I want to pop this one back to do one more shout out on this. This is for getting tents to the unhomed. If you're tuning in late because we're wrapping up here, Gatorade Ferry, Gator Aid, AID Ferry, both on Venmo and Cash App. They are doing incredible work on replacing tents for the unhomed community in Seattle who have lost their tents through the winter storm that we had. Because the weight of the snow collapsed their tents. And so they have no shelter now. And I wanted to put another shout out there before we conclude the show for that cause. So if you have a few dollars you could throw that way. And we always say, I know a lot of people are like, what could, literally, people are like, well, what could $2 do? Or what? You know what? If all you got is $2 and you Venmo them $2, those $2 add up.
Yeah.
So something to consider. Jennifer, we have a new patron tonight, and I want to give a shout out to Olwen. Olwen, I hope I'm saying your name correctly there. And we have a returning patron also tonight that has just renewed their patron. So thank you very much to them. We really appreciate you helping keeping independent media independent. Jennifer, that's it. We've run ridiculously over once again. Despite our best efforts not to run ridiculously over. And, you know, I don't feel like we rat-holed in anything tonight.
No, I don't either, but we did have a lot of stories. It's actually easier standing up because usually by this time I'm really tired. So being able to move a little bit has made it not feel as long, but we still went 2 hours again, David.
That's why you look different tonight.
Yeah, because I'm not sitting.
Because you're not sitting, because you're standing up. I know, and I have found I like standing over sitting. And actually, when we were doing the coverage for the impeachment, and, you know, I was sitting for hours and hours and hours and hours, is kind of brutal. So I prefer the standing also. Malcontents, thank you so much. And I think that's it. And so, Jennifer, I'll say goodnight, and I'll see you on Thursday.
Bye, guys.
Malcontent News is a team of journalists, activists, and researchers with 3 key missions. A commitment to show an unfiltered view of the before, during, and after of key events, live, as it happens. To defend the First Amendment using our rights of a free press. And to amplify the voices of underrepresented individuals including Black, Indigenous, persons of color, and the LGBTQIA+ community. Our team is committed to seeking equality for all and holding those in power accountable. The easiest way to support Malcontent News is to bookmark our website at malcontentnews.com, like and follow us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, and in the Google News app. To provide financial support, you can become a patron, make a one-time donation through Venmo, or link your Twitch account to your Amazon Prime account and use your free subscription to subscribe to Malcontent News. Thank you for supporting independent journalism and for being a malcontent.
You fit the profile. You're the malcontent.
Nobody wants to hear the nonsensical ravings of a loudmouth malcontent.
Antifa, fuck you! You are the biggest hypocrite on the face of the planet.
I say that you're a terrible reporter. That's what I say.